For critical task 2, we looked at decision-making in the Collier County School District, specifically at the 5th grade mathematics assessments. This project was done by Mark Free, Lisa Garby, and Sarah Woofter. The purpose of our project was to determine if the assessment system is achieving the intended outcomes and providing continuous feedback to all stakeholders. To do so, we looked at end-of-unit assessments for 5th grade students, quarterly benchmark assessments, and the 5th grade mathematics FSA. Our background really came out of Florida Statute 1008.22, which requires a comprehensive assessment system within all school districts. Stakeholders were also requesting to have common ongoing progress monitoring tools for comparative data across the Collier County Public School District. Another problem we identified were that the systems had not been aligned previously, and then that alignment of professional development efforts was lacking. Our research question was, how can we align the Collier County 5th grade mathematics assessment system with the Florida Standards and the Florida Standards Assessment? Our logic model is outlined on the screen that you're seeing now. We looked at many of the different stakeholders, including students, their parents, our district staff, and then the various Florida Department of Education, administrators, policymakers, test companies, and software program makers. The overall goal was to provide a reportable data element for student achievement and learning gains in data. We looked at a couple of different components with our inputs. We wanted to know what state, district, and classroom resources were needed to support the 5th grade mathematics assessment system for successful implementation and the desired results. For our outputs, we looked at what materials were developed and how the curriculum was being taught. And then for our outcomes, we looked at what was the impact on student success on the 5th grade mathematics standards.
So in looking at the process evaluation, specifically what processes were implemented, we looked at teachers, curriculum, and student impact. With teachers, we looked at 2 evaluation questions: are teachers receiving appropriate support, and are the professional development workshops being delivered with fidelity? And indicators including registration, lists, evaluation forms, and teacher feedback from those. With curriculum, we looked specifically at do the curriculum maps provide multiple opportunities for students to demonstrate mastery? Are the textbooks adopted, and do they align with the standards, and do the lesson plans align with the standards as well? The indicators that we were specifically looking at were the curriculum maps, the lesson plans, and teacher and student feedbacks via surveys. In the student impact piece, we were looking specifically at our students exhibiting the correct characteristics and behaviors that lead to proficient math skills, and then specifically looking at student sample work, improvement, improving test scores, etc. With the outputs evaluation, we were looking at teachers, curriculum, student impact, district assessment, and professional development. With teachers, the evaluation question was, are teachers using the district provided materials and teaching the standards with fidelity? With the curriculum, we were looking specifically at if the resources and supports were aligned with the standards. With student impact, we were looking specifically at if students were able to achieve mastery and how that was being monitored. With district assessments, we were looking at common assessments and whether we were able to gauge students' proficiency on or mastery of the standards. And then we looked at professional development and whether the trainings were on, whether teachers were receiving trainings on common end-of-unit assessments and the common assessments that they were being provided. With the outcomes evaluation, again, we were looking at teachers, curriculum, and student impact. With teachers, we were looking at are there any unintended consequences or outcomes with that, as well as looking at whether based on those elements, if any of the instructional practices had been changed. With curriculum, we were looking at have there been any changes to the curriculum map based on the needs that were determined from the evaluation or from the assessment.
And in looking at the standards-based and ethical implementation, we looked at the Advanced Ed Performance Standards for school systems. Stakeholders need to demonstrate actions to ensure the achievement of the system's purpose and desired outcomes for learning. We use the strategic plan that the Collier County District creates. To find out whether the system engages in a continuous improvement process, the district uses a data dialogue process immediately following quarterly benchmark assessments and when the FSA results are released. The administrators present their data and instructional implications to their peers and district-based administrators, and then that is replicated at the school level. We need to have feedback of the data from multiple stakeholder groups to inform decision-making that results in improvement. This school-based administrator does this, again, to the stakeholder groups using the feedback from schools, other district personnel, and community partners. Learners have to have equitable opportunities to develop skills and achieve the content. This is done through instructional materials, software programs, curriculum maps, and pacing guides provided to all teachers in schools. To make sure that educators implement a curriculum that is based on high expectations and prepares learners for the next level, curriculum maps, pacing guides, and resources are created and are vetted by curriculum content specialists. To make sure that the system implements processes to identify and address the specialized needs of learners, Collier County has an internal data warehouse platform where all district-based and state-based testing data is uploaded. Instructional personnel is able to review an IEP 504 and can sort student data using a variety of filters. The system has to implement a process to continuously assess its programs and organizational conditions. This is done immediately following the administration of district and state assessments. To make sure the content standards are followed, we use the mathematics standards from Florida Department of Education. When it comes to the evaluation standards, we have to look at utility, feasibility, propriety, accuracy, and accountability. This is done by creating a public document available for all stakeholders to review. The document will eventually turn into an evaluation, a formal evaluation plan that has a shared understanding between all of them. The evaluation plan needs to ensure that it is legal, fair, and proper, and is acceptable by all involved. It also needs to minimize occurrences of inaccuracy, and this evaluation plan can guide needed improvement. For our research follow-up, our qualitative is a mixed methods study of quarterly benchmarks. We had a focus research question that how do teachers feel about the data provided from the quarterly benchmark assessments, as well as some smaller research questions. We used a mixed methods that included a census survey for the quantitative and a focus group interviews for the qualitative. It was an explanatory design with the variables including administration assessment and the administration use of data and the essence of experiences. To check validity and reliability, we will have coding, member checking, and clarification provided as needed. For our quantitative research follow-up, the impact of single-gender instructional model on student achievement was done with the main research question, do fifth-grade students in a single-gender instructional model demonstrate increased student achievement scores as measured by the FSA, ELA, and mathematics? This will be a randomized post-test only control group design with our experimental group as single-gender fifth graders, our control group as mixed-gender fifth graders. Our independent variable is the instructional model with 3 values, and our dependent variable is the achievement levels of the FSA, and we will look at analyzing this with the t-test and ANOVA.
In summary, we included our 2017-2018 fifth grade FSA score data. We had 3,658 fifth grade students that took the assessment this year. Of those students, 2,413 students, which was 68% of those, scored a level 3 or above on the mathematics FSA, which was 7% above the statewide average of students scoring a level 3 or above. 845 students scored a level 4 and 637 students scored a level 5. So we feel like the fifth grade mathematics assessment system is working effectively. As a follow-up, we would continue to progress monitor the level 1 and 2 students. We would work with those students on goal setting and small group instruction. We would provide tiered interventions and student success plans as needed, and then use the data to make updates to curricular materials, which includes the maps, the pacing guides, the materials, and possibly the end-of-unit assessments or the quarterly benchmark assessments.